Did you really think we were ever going to get those Epstein files? This is very disappointing, but FBI Director Kash Patel and FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino have come out claiming, no, you got it all wrong. Epstein totally, completely, obviously killed himself.
You said Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide. People don't believe it.
Well, I mean, listen, they have a right to their opinion, but as someone who has worked as a public defender, as a prosecutor, who's been in that prison system, who's been in the Metropolitan Detention Center, who's been in segregated housing, you know a suicide when you see one, and that's what that was.
He killed himself. You want me to? I've seen the whole file. He killed himself.
Oh, as if these two don't have any reason to cover for Epstein and Israel. After all, here's Kash Patel saying America needs to prioritize Israel.
Donald Trump is elected. Imagine the efforts of the Israeli military and the Mossad combined with the maximum pressure of a new Trump administration against Iran.
Aaron's absolutely right. We should be side by side, and that can't happen unless we have an election that changes the commander-in-chief's seat. And when we are back in power with President Trump, you will see what we did with Israel and the prime minister and our special forces and their intel operation. We will be standing side by side with them. We will shut off the machinery that feeds money into Iran. We will no longer have 100 hostages still in captivity, Israeli and American and otherwise, by Hamas and Iran's Hezbollah mercenary forces. Donald Trump rescued 50 hostages and detainees. That's more than every president before him combined. And I hope he wins on November 5th. And Aaron's right. We need America to wake up and prioritize Israel. And that is not what Kamala Harris is about. We need to bring home Americans and end this war, bring home Israelis, and make sure we stand by our number one ally in Israel. And people need to wake up when it comes to November 5th. Donald Trump's the only choice.
Kash Patel, Aaron Cohen, great to see you, gentlemen.
People need to wake up, that's for sure. Our government has been completely co-opted, and now you've got Kash Patel and Dan Bongino saying Epstein totally killed himself. Here's Dan Bongino saying that his greatest passion, I think, was it passion that he said, or the cause dear to his heart is Israel.
Who makes you laugh the most?
Oh, you make me laugh.
What is the one thing you need to have in your fridge at all times?
Lenny and Larry's protein cookies.
What cause is dear to your heart?
Cause is dear to my Israel, the defense of Israel.
What is number one on your bucket list?
Oh, gosh. Okay. So, isn't this just great? I mean, this is just like when we ended up with this ridiculous scene, right? When Pam Bondi said, you're going to get the Epstein files, you're going to get the Epstein files. And then they literally give the Epstein files, which we already had, to a bunch of Zionist influencers. Some of them were actual Israeli influencers. They gave them, and only them, the supposed Epstein files, which was full of nothing. So we never got the Epstein files like they claimed we were going to get. That was Pam Bondi. Now you've got Kash Patel going in there saying that on day one, we're going to get all the things that we need, when it comes to JFK and Epstein and all. No, we're not getting any of it. And now you've got Kash Patel and Dan Bongino coming out saying that Epstein killed himself. Are you serious right now? Epstein killed himself? I mean, this guy. Let's just go over the inconsistencies in Epstein's suicide. And here's Kash Patel and Dan Bongino. Oh, he totally killed himself. We've seen the file. Okay, we don't even need to see the file to know this guy clearly did not kill himself. Here's some of the inconsistencies. First of all, when it comes to the scene in the autopsy, Epstein's autopsy revealed a broken hyoid bone in his neck, which is like right about here. And this is an injury that is far more common in manual strangulation. So yes, it can break if you hang yourself, but it's usually when it breaks, it's because of manual strangulation. This was actually an autopsy was done by Epstein's family. They hired Dr. Michael Baden, who's a top forensic pathologist. And Epstein's brother hired him, and Dr. Michael Baden said the evidence was more consistent with homicide than suicide. Also, the mark around Epstein's neck was too low for a typical hanging and had characteristics that didn't match the noose reportedly used. It resembled the kind of compression seen in strangulation, not the upward force of a hanging. Another thing was there was no blood on the noose. Despite Epstein having visible injuries to his neck, there was no blood on the bed sheet that he allegedly used to hang himself. So, that usually has, that's usually there when somebody hangs themselves. Also, the height of so this is another thing that's weird. Epstein is like he was 6 feet tall or something along those lines. And allegedly he was tied to a noose to a lower bunk bed that's only about waist high. I mean, how do you hang yourself from a low bunk bed waist high when you're 6 feet tall? Your body naturally, when you try to, this is why people, kick a stool out from under them, because you're going to fight. Once you kind of get to that last stretch, your brain will kick in, fight or flight will kick in. You will no longer be thinking logically. Your fight or flight will kick in and you will try to save yourself. So there's no way a 6 foot tall man hung himself from the low bunk. Hanging yourself from that position would barely allow enough drop to cause unconsciousness, let alone death, okay? It defies physics. Also, an inadequate anchor point. The bunk bed was metal and bolted to the wall, so it was not high, movable, or conducive to lethal hanging. So even if he did tie it properly, it's unclear how he generated the force necessary to break bones and lose consciousness. There was no suicide note. Also, Epstein, he left no final words, no explanation, no letter to his family, his lawyers, or his accusers. So for someone who had everything to lose and knew he was facing life behind bars, that's unusual. Most suicides in similar situations at least leave something. Now let's go over the security footage and the cell conditions. So that was the body, the inconsistencies with the body. And then, of course, people point out when they saw the body rolled out of there, they're saying, oh, the nose doesn't match or the ears don't match. But here's the security footage issue. For one, there's missing security footage. So apparently the security cameras directly outside of Epstein's cell just happened to malfunction that night. And other footage was reportedly lost or deleted due to technical errors. One of the most important detainees in the country, and we have no video. Also, no cellmate. Epstein's cellmate was removed hours before his death. So despite protocols requiring high-risk inmates to be housed with a cellmate, he was left alone, unsupervised at the exact moment something critical happened. Then there was these reports of shrieking or yelling. According to CBS News and others, there was shouting, there was shrieking that was heard from Epstein's cell just before his body was discovered. That's not something you normally hear in a quiet, deliberate suicide. I don't know of any bodies that just start screaming after they've offed themselves. The prison staff, this was another very highly suspicious inconsistency. They were removed from suicide watch. So Epstein had previously been found, he was removed from suicide watch. He'd previously been found in his cell with marks on his neck, yet just days later he was taken off suicide watch with no clear explanation. That decision alone raises red flags. Also, the 2 guards responsible for watching Epstein lied in official documents claiming they did routine checks when turns out they didn't. Surveillance proved they were asleep or browsing the internet during critical hours. Also, neither guard assigned that night was a regular corrections officer. One was a former warehouse worker working overtime. The other had minimal experience. Why were unqualified staff assigned to such a high-profile prisoner? Right. Despite being a known suicide risk, also, Epstein was somehow given extra sheets and bedding. So he had the exact tools needed. It just so happened to carry out a hanging. Even though policy should have removed those items, he should have had a cellmate. He should have been on suicide watch, and he shouldn't have had extra bedding. But they gave it to him anyway. Also, the Metropolitan Correctional Center, where Epstein was held, was already known for serious staffing issues and failures. So even before his death, watchdogs flagged the prison as dangerous and mismanaged. Yet he was left there anyway, right? The most high-profile prisoner you got. Also, after the massive security breakdown, the jail's acting warden wasn't fired or charged and said he was quietly reassigned to another federal post. Zero accountability for him. Now let's go on to the lack of transparency and accountability. The official ruling was suicide, as we all know, but the independent autopsy concluded homicide. When 2 respected forensic pathologists looked at the same body and reached opposite conclusions, that right there is a massive red flag. So there should be at least a third look, other opinions, when these 2 pathologists come to different conclusions. Also, Epstein's brother and legal team reported being stonewalled by authorities. They weren't given full access to medical files, videos, or documents. Even they couldn't get answers. That's very bizarre. Also, despite all of these failures, no one in a position of power faced serious consequences. The guards were briefly charged with falsifying records, but plea deals and dropped, but plea deals and drop charges followed. So when they, even though they were charged, they got to broker some deals. And the system, just protected them. Lastly, court documents were unsealed the day before. So Epstein died one day after thousands of pages of court documents were released, documents implicating some of the most powerful people in the world. So, if you want the guy dead, that would be the time to do it as soon as these court documents start naming names. You don't want the guy mouth in his mouth when the names are named. So it's all suspicious. But yeah, right, it was totally and completely 1,000%. It was a suicide. He completely killed himself.
You said Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide. People don't believe it.
Well, I mean, listen, they have a right to their opinion, but as someone who has worked as a public defender, as a prosecutor, who's been in that prison system, who's been in the Metropolitan Detention Center, who's been in segregated housing, you know a suicide when you see one, and that's what that was.
He killed himself. You want me to? I've seen the whole file. He killed himself.
Oh yes, what is dear to your heart, Dan Bongino? Israel. This is just a clown show. You know what this is? This is very crafty, clever workings of the people in power, the people that want to hide what Israel has done. They know that there's a movement out there right now of people wanting the truth in government. Right? Donald Trump ran on. We're going to finally have transparency. We're going to get people in there that are not going to play political games. We're going to get people in there you could trust. And they put in people that they thought you could trust. That would be Kash Patel and Dan Bongino. And they figured that you would look at that and you would see, Dan Bongino, who was like a radio show host, he's former, he was, what was Dan? I don't know his background. Was he a Navy SEAL or something like that? And then he ended up being a radio show host and he was on Fox News and whatnot. So he built a huge following and people trust him. People like listening to him. So they figure, if they put an independent or like a media person out there, a truth teller, and stick him in the FBI, then when he looks at the Epstein file and tells you Epstein killed himself, maybe you'll just gobble that bullshit up. I mean, that is what they are banking on. And this is a very clever strategy. They're co-opting a movement. The movement is we want truth and transparency. So what they've done is they've given you people they think you can trust who will lie to you. And that's what's happening. We're being lied to by people who claimed we could trust them, by people who claimed they were going to go in there and give us transparency. And we're not getting any transparency at all. We're getting lies. We're getting lies and we're getting cover up and we're never going to get to the truth. And I think we all need to just come to the realization that it doesn't matter. You could have been Team Trump, voted for him, really finally thought we're going to drain the swamp. Finally, we're going to get transparency. But there is one cause you will not get transparency on ever, and that is Israel. You will not get the government to give you the information. The government will not admit to it. We have to deduce for ourselves. We have to say, we pretty much know what's going on here. We know that, did you know, Glenn Greenwald actually posted this over the weekend, that the most visited country by Congress members is Israel. By triple. The number one country that our Congress people visit is Israel. The second most visited country is the UK. But by 1/3 of the visits from our politicians. Instead, they're visiting Israel. Who's paying for those trips? AIPAC type groups, pro-Israel groups, paying for our politicians to go over there and kiss the Wailing Wall, basically, to do their photo op, to do their pilgrimage. So we're not going to get any answers. We have to just decide that we know the truth. We know what's going on. We know they're all bought off or they're afraid, or even if they're not bought off, they want to make money. They want to make money when they're out of office. They've got book deals. They've got business deals they want to make. They've got real estate developments they want to do. And they want to do that with organizations like BlackRock or Vanguard or any of these other big organizations. And they don't want to piss off the Zionists. That's what they don't want to do. They think that there's a lot of Zionists that are running the world, or Zionist friendly, or Zionists themselves. People that just don't want to piss them off. And they kowtow because they want to make the money. They want to continue They want to continue having the opportunities. So they don't even need to be blackmailed. They just need to be greedy. And I don't know what it is with Kash. I don't know what it is with Dan Bongino. I don't know what it is with RFK Jr. I don't know what it is with Trump. I don't know what it is with any of these. Tulsi Gabbard, same way. You know, all these people that many of us believed we could trust. I don't know what it is that got them to suddenly just bow down and kiss the ground that Israel walks on and completely throw the American people under the bus in the process. That is what's happened. They've all played the game. And they've decided we'll be we're doing a limited hangout. That's what a limited hangout is, where we're just going to give you enough of the truth to get you to trust us, and then we're just going to lie to you. And that's what they've done on issue after issue after issue, given us a limited hangout, only to just lie flat out to our faces when it comes to Israel. Epstein committed suicide. How many of you people believe that? Raise your hands. I don't see any. That's what I thought. Thank you for watching this clip from the full Kim Iversen Show, which you can catch Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. We do live stream it every day. It's a 1-hour show. You can catch it. It is totally free. Just go to KimIversonShow.com. See you there.